Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ibi Speaks. My name is Ibi, and thank you all very much for joining us today. And we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube. And guys, listen, this particular episode is very important for parents who are planning to relocate with their children from non-European speaking countries, and for parents who also have, for migrant parents as well, who have children. And I have 4 experts who are going to speak to the subject matter of how to raise a well-balanced migrant child. I think 2 weeks ago or so, I started the series, and I had a topic, all you need to know before you embark on the journey. And it's Ibi Speaks episode 74. So just to let you know, like, you can just go back and check that episode first if you missed it. And I also have some episodes that I've done about things you need to know before you relocate to America, and things you also need to know if you want to send your child to Canada. So just check it out. So today I have 4 brilliant women, experts, who are going to speak to this conversation. And not only are they experts, they're also mothers as well. So they have a well-informed view and perspective. First of all, I have Florence, early childhood expert and early childhood expert specialist, as well as a lecturer. She resides in the Republic of Ireland. She is also doing a PhD on the subject matter. I have Morayo Amao. She's an assistant head teacher in the United Kingdom. I have Ruth D. Whyte. She's a parent advocate and educator in the United Kingdom. And I have Grace Adewale. Grace is a holistic child expert, as well as a teacher and educator. And we're all here to speak to this conversation. And you can be a part of this program by sending your message or sending your questions to, if you're watching via Zoom, on the comment section. And if you're watching via YouTube or Facebook, do so. And I will try as much as possible to answer those questions as well. Like I promised on my flyer, this is going to be an interactive session. So you would have the opportunity to ask the guests your questions yourself if you're watching via Zoom. So welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. And hello to everyone who's watching on Facebook, on my Facebook page, and on my Facebook profile, and on my YouTube channel, Ibi as well. So, and again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. It's Ibi. And you can follow me on my profiles, Ibi Instagram, Ibi Facebook, and Ibi LinkedIn. Now, let me just give time to some people to join. Listen, please, if you know anyone who is relocating, who is planning to relocate with young people, please invite them. And if you are a parent of a young child or young children, you're a migrant, please join the conversation, because you're going to learn from the best. It's not, we're going to tell you the truth. We're going to tell you the things that people don't tell you. We're going to tell you the truth, and we hope that this information would help you. So, Florence.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with you. And you did a research about some of the setbacks or some of the challenges that migrant children go through. And what were the findings of your research? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I am Ibi for the invite, and it's a great opportunity to be here. So I'm just going to quickly talk about what my PhD research is all about and some of the findings. Okay, so for my PhD research, what I did was to interview 15 Nigerian mothers that are based in the Republic of Ireland. So these are mothers that have young children that were availing of the ECC scheme. So here in the Republic of Ireland, the government have like a free preschool scheme whereby children from the ages of 2 years and 8 months before they go into primary school, they avail of free preschool education. So mainly the purpose of my research is to look at how these mothers, Nigerian mothers, how they are part of their children's early childhood education. What are the things that they do in relation to being part of their children's early childhood education? So from the discussion, they spoke about a lot of things, but the main issues that I would like to talk about were the barriers that these mothers faced. So they spoke about the things that is preventing them from being part of their children's early childhood education, because this was one of the questions that I asked, that what were the factors that is affecting you in relation to being part of your children's early childhood education? So they spoke about two main issues. One was a lack of family and childcare support. Okay, this mother spoke about leaving Nigeria. So they are mainly Nigerian mothers. My PhD research was mainly focused on Nigerian mothers. And you might be asking, why Nigerian mothers? Because I've seen a lot of people ask me this question, why not African mothers? Why Nigerian mothers? So because I'm from a Nigerian descent, and the reason why I'm doing this, my research, is I want to give back to my community, the Nigerian community here in Ireland, because I want them to be really part of their children's early childhood education. And you can agree with me that research has proven that learning starts from early childhood. And it's really important that parents get it right from early childhood. I've seen whereby people say things such as early childhood, they're just only going there to play. There's not really learning taking place. But that's the main place where the learning starts. It's like planting a seed. So early childhood is planting a seed, and everything else falls in place from primary to secondary school. So this mother spoke about lack of family and childcare support in Ireland. So they spoke about moving from Nigeria to Ireland. They don't have any family. So some of them spoke about when they gave birth to their children, they were left on their own, no family support, no childcare support. And they compared this to back home in Nigeria, where if they give birth, they have family members come to support them, come to help them. So in that kind of situation, what I'm going to advise is, if you're a migrant mother or family that you're planning to relocate, you're somebody maybe coming from Africa, it doesn't even have to be from Africa, you're relocating to a different country, you need to understand that you're going to be faced with the challenges of lack of family and childcare support. And in that kind of scenario, be prepared your mind. So have your mind prepared so that when you come in, you have to network, meet like-minded people as well. Try to make yourself available with other migrants. Look at what's available in the community for you, because, it's all about, making yourself known, asking questions. Okay, like here in Ireland, we have something that we call Citizenship Information Center. This is where you can go to, you can ask questions about, okay, do you have any African community? So I think it's important, join an African community where you can meet with other parents as well. You can be able to rub minds together. And another findings was cultural differences in child rearing practices. So this mother spoke about, coming from Nigeria to Ireland, they are used to their own culture. And then when they move to Ireland, it's a different thing entirely. Okay, so I'm going to use an example of potty training. Okay, so they spoke about potty training as an issue. Like, as African, at a certain age, we want our children to be potty trained. So one of the mothers spoke about, this was during COVID. So COVID was another challenge that the mother spoke about. So this was during COVID. She was not allowed to go into the preschool setting because of, the health and safety measures. So she had potty trained her child at home. And then when our child got into preschool, she had few incidents, and then the preschool staff resorted to our child wearing pull-up. They're like, there's no way we can do it. I think for them, because it's the free ECC scheme, it's not part of potty training a child. They believe that before a child moves to preschool, they should be potty trained. So she spoke about those challenges that, she was not able to help the way she could have helped. So it was all phone call, she was contacted on phone, how she can support her child. So she felt that if she was in the preschool, she would be able to offer support. So in that kind of scenario, I'd also talk about cultural differences. So if you're migrating from your home country, you're moving into another country, be well prepared to meet up with one of the challenges, which is cultural differences in child rearing practices. Because the way child rearing practices is back home from where you're coming from, it's going to be different. So you're going to meet with a new way of doing things. So the advice I'm going to offer in that kind of scenario is, it will be important to also attend parenting classes as well. So it's all about looking at what is available in your community, parenting classes where you can be able to learn more about, the culture. So let's say, for instance, if I have somebody from Nigeria moving into Ireland, okay, I would advise the person to attend parenting classes so that they can be able to learn more in relation to, rearing their children here, how the system works. Because you need to understand, and we also need to understand that there are some things that we do back home that is not really applicable here. I'm going to cite an example. So one of the example is, like listening to your children. I'm not being judgmental here. Sometimes you see parents, they find it difficult to listen to their children. When their children is talking to them, they're like, oh, it's whatever I want you to do. You have to listen to what I'm being told. I'm going to cite an example of something that happened in UK. And I'm sure most of you that you're based in UK, you might have heard the news about this Nigerian father that wanted his son to be a doctor. And then, was training the son to be a doctor. And this was not what the son wanted to do. So they were learning at home. And I think because of the boy was not studying, I think maybe the father beat the child or something like that. And then the two boys that they're like Whyte ran out of the house, and then they called the police. And I think that the father is now in prison because the father wanted the son to be a medical doctor, which the son said, this is not what he wants to do. So I think it's also important, listening to our children as well, ensuring that they can make informed decisions. I know there are some decisions that we have to make for them, that when we feel that it's the right thing for them, but we also let them to see things from our own perspective. Like the way you're going to deal with a preschooler is going to be different from the way you're going to deal with a primary school children or secondary school children. So like secondary school children, for instance, if they want to make decisions about the courses that they want to study in the university, all you just have to look at their strengths, advise them and tell them, this is the area that I feel that you're very good at, and also seek the child's opinion. I think I'm going to stop for now and give others, opportunity to talk.
Thank you so much, Florence, because that's a mouthful. And by saying that is a mouthful, I mean that these are the stark realities that a lot of migrant families face. And sometimes also, the way the men don't come first, the women come alone. So you're faced with a situation where you don't have the extra support that you need. So you're like inundated with all sorts. So thank you. So what I hear you say here is no support, cultural differences, potty training, in terms of potty training, and some of the ways we do stuff, like listening to your children, because in our culture is like, listen to me and do what I say. That's what we say. That's what we do. We don't listen. So thank you very much, Florence. And I think that what you are saying to every person who is thinking about relocating abroad is to be aware that you wouldn't have any support if you don't have any support in the country where you're going to. Thank you very much. Grace, would you like to add some more to what, expatiate on what Florence has said?
I think if anything to be said is to, yes, we're not saying to throw away our culture, as it were. And we're very used to the thing of it takes a village to raise a child. However, now that we are here in this economy, it's not particularly as easy to find or know who to trust on where to leave your child and the way they think. I mean, they allow children more to, I mean, there's what Florence just mentioned about early childhood. There's a whole booklet on how on the child care provider, understanding what milestones and what the expectations, what they expect of each child from age 0 to 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and there's a lot of things that it will measure. So where we as African parents will say, oh, by 1 year or by 1.5, my child is already potty training and knows how to wearing their nappy and everything, and they're out of nappies and all of that, all sorts. If you took, there's some nurseries that don't actually have the facility in a toddler room for toilets. So in a 0 to 1 or 1.5, 0 to 2 years old nursery, sometimes they don't have toilet facilities. But if your child's already potty trained at age 1.5, and you're expecting them to take your child to the toilet, they won't do that. So, and then you now have to having that friction. So again, understanding what are the data. So when you are looking for a preschool setting, a school, a primary school setting, all of those things for your children, you have to really zero your mind away from what you know and ask questions that meet your own expectations. So if wherever setting you're going to put your child doesn't meet what you're expecting, perhaps ask someone else that's been here before and say, well, this is what they are saying that they don't do. Is that right? Or is it peculiar to this particular setting? And if that is the case, then you just, if it's that, they find somewhere else. But if that is a norm in the environment that you are in, well, then you will have to adapt to it as opposed to trying to force your way into that space. I think that in a nutshell, that'll be it. So the aspect of listening to your children about Nigeria, Africa, wherever or not, it is our, I know we were not particularly raised in that way by parents listening to us. But if we want to be impactful parents, if we want to be transformational parents, as it were, for our children in this generation that they are existing in now, not in the 80s, not in the 90s, but in the 2020 something that we are in right now, we have to be the ears and the mouth and the heart for these children. We cannot just say, oh, I'm rushing off to go to work. I don't have time. Once I put clothes on your back, once I feed you, no. Because if you're in this country, in the Western world, if you're not educating and programming, that's what programming your child the way you want them to be, the state, the environment, the places they go to will program your kids for you. You will come back home one day with all the money you've made and lost sight of who your child is. Literally, it only takes a year and a half, 2 years max. Your child is sold, turned over, and like, is this the same child I brought into this country? So if you're not listening, when they come in, you're looking at their school bags. What have you brought home today? What have you learned today? You're literally in their business. You are in their business. Everything that they're doing, you're trying to be sure and to know exactly how, and just engage with them in the best way that you can. Yes. So your values the things that you value very much, the information that you want, how you want your kids to be raised, you are not losing sight of it because it's so easy. And I mean, you see so many social media these days, from gender to education, so many things, it's out there, right? So if you don't want to lose your child and your values that you're imbibing your child from the day dot, you have to listen, you have to engage, you have to communicate with your child every single time. I'll park it there for now, let everyone else speak. Thank you.
Sorry, Sister Ibi, can I just chip in one thing there? I can't hear you. Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to say, when Grace was saying something, and I think this is my last comment and I'm going to zip it. It's all about sacrifice as well. As you know, immigrant parents, we have to be able to make that sacrifice. I know for us living our own country, with that mindset of, oh, we want our lives to be better, we want the lives of our children to be better, we need to be able to make that sacrifice. That's why it's better to work together. Like if you have the husband and the wife, you need to sit down. Okay, do you want to go and work in the morning while I work in the night? Somebody have to be available for the children, just because of what Grace said. Because if you don't engage in their life, if you're not part of their business, they go out there to go and learn what they are not supposed to learn. They mix up with people every day. Even you are in their business, there are still some things that you don't know about them. So the advice I'm going to give for most people that are planning to Japa, okay, you need to sit down and talk about it. Okay, we're going as a family. We need to make sacrifice. Who is going to be working in the morning? Who is going to be working in the afternoon? Who is going to be working in the evening? At least the child should have an adult at home with them. I know it's not easy, it's difficult. I know you're going to come at me and say, Florence, how is that possible? We all have to make money. This is why you have to make the sacrifice. I'll use myself as an example. When I first came here, there are some jobs that I was doing and I look at it, I'm like, I can't continue like this. My husband has his own job. I'm like, I better go and gain more knowledge so that I can have a job that I know that at least I'll be at home with the children. You know, I can help them in terms of their education, give them the moral support. So I think it's important that you need to think. And most people, like when you're coming, you might not even have that idea. You're like, oh, we've gotten our visas. Let's just go. When we get there, we'll sort things out. It's part of the discussion that you have to sit down and make. Okay, let's make that sacrifice. Okay, are you demand that, okay, you want to go and work? Okay, what are the jobs that we're going to get? Or I've known some people that they sacrifice. They're like, they're not going to get a job until when their children are up to a certain age. And you can't blame them, guys. We can't blame them. We can't just say, well, why are you sitting down and say, oh, you don't want to get a job, you want to look after your children. Even looking after children is full time. So I think it's important that, you know, both parties has to sit down and think of the sacrifice has to be made. If you know that you want to build that holistic child, the well-being of the children, both parties has to really sit down and plan in relation to when they moved abroad, how they are going to go about, you know, sourcing their livelihood. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I have somebody here. I don't usually do this, but I'll let the person ask a question. Somebody has a question. Folake?
Yeah, so sorry. Good afternoon. I just wanted to
Okay.
ask a question. Yeah, I'm sorry for
Okay,
interrupting.
do that. It's fine.
Fine. When Grace was talking and Florence, they were saying something about support. Does that mean that people that don't, let's say single mom for an instance, and there's a saying in this country that children raised by, pardon me, that's what I used to hear anyway, that children raised by single mom, they end up in the prison or joining gang. Does that mean as a single parent coming from Nigeria, maybe with 3 children or 4 children, does that mean you can't be successful raising a godly children or a good children? Sorry, that's just my question.
I'll chime in on that. God forbid that would be a single parent's testimony. Now, things are doubly hard for a single parent, and that can't be taken lightly or, you know, brushed under the carpet, that it's not important. However, there are, when you've come abroad with the intention of creating a better life for yourself and for your children, there's still a sacrifice that needs to be made, because I'm also aware, obviously, you cannot engage in any of the state benefits because you are a migrant, and you cannot get any help from the whatever to subsidize either your rent or all of those things. Now, if that's the case, surely if you've come here, I'm hoping that you have a family or you know someone that you can. So don't, if you know someone in London, for example, I would not recommend to go and live in the thicks of someone like Colchester, where I stay, right? You have to try and find a community for yourself. That, okay, if my child is in primary and they have to go to school or have to drop them off, just try and network and be open, okay? Don't close into yourself, and just try and get as much help as you can. In terms of work, you can find jobs that they call wraparound work. So where your kids are in school, you are working, and when they're home, you are able to pick them up, or they can have being after school club or breakfast club, so you can work for longer hours, right? And then you can pick them up a little later, so they go to after school club. So when they come back home, you're at least even for 30 minutes to an hour, lend them your ears, spend time with them, so at least you are still involved in their business. Okay. If you have to check, like I said before, I mentioned, I keep saying check their bags, because sometimes you God forbid, I've seen where parents, their kids have started taking knives to school without them realizing their kids are taking knives to school. Why? Because they have been threatened with a knife outside in their school or on the way to school or something. And it's when maybe a police comes, knock on the door and say, oh, we caught your child with a dangerous weapon. And then the parents are aghast that, oh my God, when and why did this happen? Or at what point did this happen? But you're in there, you're checking their schoolwork, you're sending just prompt messages to their teacher. An email will suffice, or speak to them at the door. How are they behaving? So don't just ask, oh, how's their schoolwork? No, that's not only that. Friends, or are they engaging with friends? What are they like during playground times? And then, just ask questions and then ask about schoolwork. Oftentimes at the doors, child will say to you, oh, they're doing fine, they're getting on well, unless there's trouble. Unless the child is making a mess in the classroom or giving the teacher palaver in the classroom before you hear too much about anything going on in the classroom, really. But if you're asking questions, you're asking them, okay, so this term, what are they, topics are they covering this term? Have they been given homework? How can I help? When you ask each other those questions, they'll be like, okay, this parent is interested. This parent wants to be involved. So when anything happens, or they're more keen to want to help in that way, because they're showing interest in your child's learning. I hope what I've said so far might give some help in some work. Yeah, it's a lot that a person will have to contend with, but I hope that has helped a bit, I think.
Thank you.
Can I chip in one or two things? Sorry. So Falake, I would like you to know that there are some situations that happens, it wasn't planned for, like the likes of like a single mom or single dad. Something happened. Let's say, for instance, if it's a case of domestic violence, you're not going to say to the person to stay in such, a relationship. So we can't be casting blames. I think it's important, the society that we are now, and I think people are copying on now. You can't just say, well, because somebody is a single mom, they are not going to raise their children well. I think one thing I'm just going to access in that kind of situation, talk to the teacher of your children, ask them questions. This was also one of the findings of my PhD research. One mother said to me that she's not bothered about her child's preschool education. She doesn't care because the school hasn't ranked her. Exactly what Grace said. She's like, oh, she hasn't got any call from the preschool, so she believes that everything is fine with her child. And she also said one thing, well, it's preschool, she's just having fun, I'm not bothered. But for my other children in primary school, I'm always asking the teachers question. So for you or whoever is in that situation, they should ask questions, talk to the teacher, meetings. You don't have to wait for when the teachers will tell you it's time to meet up with them. You can also give them a call, write a note to your children that you would like to meet up with the teacher, ask them questions. How can you support your child? And, the teacher's perception will change. Because let's be sincere with ourselves. Some of the perceptions they have about the immigrant parents is like they're a bit laid back when it gets to their children's education. Or, they don't bother. Like, even for my own research, like when I was talking to my student, my undergrad student, some of them said, oh, immigrant, when it gets to preschool education of their children, they don't bother, we've hosted activities, preschool events, nobody is forthcoming. So, make yourself available. Whoever is in that situation, make yourself available, always ask questions, and they will see that you're involved. And then the table is going to turn around. They won't even wait for you. They would even be the one to be chasing you around because they know that you've already started the process. I think that's just what I wanted to add. And I think I'm going to zip it now. So that
okay, it's okay. You don't have to zip it. So, Morayo,
Yeah.
you are an assistant head teacher, and we've talked about parents. So from your experience as a head teacher, assistant head teacher, I mean, you've done this for quite a long time, so you've seen it all. In what ways do migrant children present their strengths, their limitations, and in what ways do African parents, or rather their parents, present, and how can we help them to present better or preserve their strengths to be able to train a well-balanced migrant child?
Thanks, Ivy, for that question. I'll just answer Folake what she said about single parents. I think that's just labeling, and because you do have parents that are together, parents that are single, and the children turn out really well. And in schools, you have support. You have homeschool link workers. In England, we have homeschool link workers who parents, can speak to at the gate as soon as they are coming in, and to find out about the well-being of their child. And then they can have meetings with the homeschool link office worker if they need help in the sense of breakfast club, after school club, what the school can offer. And schools do support parents. It doesn't matter if you're a single parent or you're with a partner, because everybody goes through problems, and needs support for their child. I'll just put that in. Okay. Based on what you asked me, Ivy, the strengths of an immigrant child. As we know, every child is unique, and every child comes from different backgrounds. So we have cultural diversity. A child coming from, I'll just focus on Nigeria, a child coming from Nigeria and coming into the United Kingdom comes with, traditional storytelling, because they're used to this from their grandparents and all that. So they bring all those strengths into the educational system. They're good with art, and they love to talk about, things that they see in Nigeria that children here, if they haven't experienced before, and this helps to enhance, the culture, the Nigerian culture. And again, our children, a Nigerian child who recently moved to the UK, they demonstrate resilience. Nigerian children are very resilient due to their upbringing, and they adapt quickly to new environment, and they do overcome initial language barriers, because it depends on the spoken English, that the child, can speak. And again, it depends on the school that they are going to, like that, because we do advise parents, I think one of the speakers has spoken about that. It is good to go and find out about the local area, where you're going to, to find out about the school, the needs of your child, if they can provide all those needs, for your child, like that. You ask questions, because here communication is key. Parents have to ask questions. What can you do to, what can you offer my child, if the child has needs, or where the child is lacking, how that child can be supported and all. It is good to ask questions, what the school has to offer. It doesn't mean because the school is in the United Kingdom, that means that school can offer what your child needs. You've got to ask questions, what extracurricular activities do they do, that would enhance your child's, education. All these questions needs to be asked again. And again, we look at the global perspective in the sense of, UK and Nigeria, during a geography lesson, like that. When we look at the UK, we look at Nigeria, it's different. So a child coming from Nigeria doesn't necessarily know much about the UK. So we do advise parents, to read up more or educate their children more about the UK, because what the curriculum is different. What the child will be learning in history, what the child will be learning in geography is a lot different. But there, the child coming from Nigeria also, can talk about the Nigerian custom, their cultures there, hereby where children are having, a balanced perspective of, the Nigerian culture and the British culture also, because children want to learn from each other. And again, teachers want to learn, because some teachers have never been to Nigeria. So the child is talking about her culture or their culture, what the landmarks there and all that. And that gets the teacher also to adapt that into their teaching. Because I've had children, when I was a class teacher, come from different backgrounds, and I've had to adapt my teaching to bring the child, into my class also, to find out about their background, about their country, and try and put that in my lesson so that the child, has that confidence also. Because you see a child, when you're talking about their country, they have that self-confidence, then they can even answer questions, and get involved, in the lessons, like that. But when all that is not put in the lesson, you find out that the child does not have self-confidence. They withdraw because they do not know much about what is being taught in the classes. And then you feel that the child doesn't know, but it's because of the differences of culture. And again, our Nigerian children, they're very good with maths and science, because those are the basic things, that we learn. But in the terms of English, even though we speak English, it is how our curriculum, what is being taught in class, because we have creative writing. People do talk for writing, and that's not taught like that in Nigeria, because I have left Nigeria a long time, so I can't really talk about the schools in Nigeria. But when I was there, it was more of using textbooks comprehensions, because children are very good with comprehension because they're reading the story, they can answer the question. But in the terms of creative writing, a child that doesn't know much about the United Kingdom, how do you expect the child to excel in creative writing? The child hasn't been to these places before. So, and you expect the child to express themselves on paper. They won't know how to write much, and all that. And then this brings the child back in class, and teachers say, oh, they don't know. So we do encourage parents when they come here to try and go to places, take your children to the park, take them to the museum, get, accustomed to the UK, the locality in the United Kingdom, so that your child knows these places and your child can talk about these places. And thereby you, the parent, also, you're educating yourself. And then ask questions from the teachers, about the curriculum. What does my child need to learn? What do I need to do with my child? Because we find out most people, I think it was Grace saying, parents not having time for their children, because when they come, because of the jobs they have, most people don't have time doing homework with their children. They don't check the bags to even know if they've even put letters, sent home. Most people don't even check because of maybe night shift or things like that, which I do understand. But we all have done that because it is your child's education. So you should make time. I always say to parents, you should make time for your child. Even if he's in the car, talk to your child. Ask what happened in school today. What did you learn in school today? Yeah, and find out from your child, and thereby you're teaching your child also things. Because then when my children were much younger, in the car, we're singing songs, we're learning colors, we're counting trees, we're counting things. There, your child is still learning. Instead of you just sitting down, even when you're cooking, you're cooking, you can still come into the dining where your child is doing the homework, just look through, you're multitasking, and then you're checking the homework, you're going back, you're having conversations, and you're supporting the child. But we find out that a lot of migrant parents always say, oh, because I work long hours, I don't have time. You have to make that time. You have to make that time if you want your child to excel in class. You have to make that time. You have to ask questions to know what your child needs, how your child is coping in class, things that you need to do. And again, you have to go for parents' evenings, because a lot of parents, they don't come for parents' evenings. You hardly see them, like that. It's always one uncle or one auntie picking up, from school. You don't meet the parents. You have to make that time, and now in schools, they are trying to make parents' evening late, that it comes to about 7 p.m. teachers are in school. So for working parents to have that time, you know, to ask questions, to come and find out, you know, about what is happening. And in my school, we do something called It Takes a Village to Raise a Child, because we know that we have a lot of African parents there. So they do come on a Thursday morning, which we encourage parents to come. And then they talk about the struggles they're having, you know, and how the school can support them, what they need to do, what websites they need to go to, because we have those coffee mornings with them, you know, to try and, you know, help them. And then they feel more confident because they have other African teachers that are there. So we do understand where they're coming from, and we try, you know, to support them also in the school. And again, it's all about, you know, inclusion and diversity, because you're learning from the migrant child, and the migrant child also is learning, you know, in the school forum. So we all are learning from each other. The teachers don't know all, so everybody is learning from each other. And parents should not feel shy to ask, because some parents, you know, feel that, oh, they'll look down on me if I'm asking questions. You should not feel shy. You should ask questions. There's nothing wrong in asking questions. It's when you ask, then you know how to support your child.
Fantastic, Morayo. Thank you so much for that. Just quickly now, if you have any questions, just feel free to write your questions down. And or if you're watching via Zoom, sorry, if you're watching via YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, feel free to write your questions, and we would as much as possible answer your questions. And if you're with us in the Zoom platform, then raise up your hand, and I would get you to ask your questions. Who's there? There's somebody who is, okay, I'll just mute that person.
Yeah.
Now, Ibi, I want to come to you. Ruth D. Whyte. I want to come to you.
Yes.
And Morayo just put the question on my laps. She's saying to parents, and even all of our speakers are talking about questions. Ask the right questions. Ibinabo, I call you Ibinabo because you're Ibinabo as well.
Yes.
So you are a parent advocate.
Yes.
And we're talking about questions. What kind of questions should the parents be asking? Where can they go for support? Because, you know, leaving your country to another country, we've all done it. Like, it's not easy. So as a parent advocate, I want you to hold the hand of a migrant parent. Say to them, this is what you can do. These are the kinds of questions you can ask. Now, I want to, again, a parent is just coming and he's looking for a school for the child to attend. You know, usually in Nigeria, we'll just go, you get this school, not better school, be this, so get this school. Hey, my friend became, they go one school. Sorry, I have to go local now because that's the way we rule sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
You get this school, it's very good school. The principal, they're very nice, you know. And guys, excuse my French. And then I would now say, oh, Ruth, you just tell me, I beget this school, very nice. So I go to the building, very beautiful building. All the children, they're very, very good. Are you like, not true? Yes, so you take your children there. But then you are saying that that's not how it's supposed to be, is it?
No. Okay, thank you, Ibi. Thank you. I hope you can all hear me. I think the key word here, if we sum it up all to one word, based on what we're all talking about, it's all about transitioning. And it's all about transitional planning. So as a parent, I want to move over. I want to migrate. I need to sit back to think of my plan, because you must have a plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's simple. It's all very clear. So I need to strategize. I need to prepare. I need to plan it out. I need to ask questions. I need to act it out. I need to think before I move. Now, whether we are single parent, family, or whatever the case may be, we can all succeed. And I would really encourage all fathers, to be part of the journey too, because this is a two-way thing, especially when, we have younger children involved. I would really encourage the fathers to be part of this journey. One of the major reasons most families want to transition is because they will all talk about the progress of their children. They want to see their children having a better life, living a better life. It's not just basically for them, it's for the kids. And so if we are doing this for the kids, the right questions should be asked. Now, what are these questions? Especially regarding school. And I think most of us, we have a wonderful team here, and they've given us so many clues to the right questions. For instance, if I have a child, I'll be talking about the right age. I'll be talking about the locality. I'll be talking about proximity from my house to the school, thinking about, the kind of situation I would be in. For instance, if I have, both parents are working, how close is the school? How often? It's not a case of, you just drop your child off and you think you could pick your child at any time. No. You must understand clearly that all children must at a certain point in time. So the question should be asked, what kind of jobs can I do? Where is the school? What was the closing time? When do the schools close? Who can pick the children? We also talk about, the vision of the school or the mission. Or are we going to grammar school? Are we going to, a mainstream school or even a special needs school? We'll be looking at the needs of the children. Who are my children? Where are they meant to be placed? You understand? We need to be asking all these questions. We need to go into the schools again to go see what the schools are like. How are they able to accommodate your children? My child is hyperactive. How will you be able to work with my child? Are you able to manage the needs of my child or my children? And then you think about the ages of the children. Is it convenient for you to be able to walk across, and drop the children and pick the children up? Or the older ones can help? There's loads of questions parents need to ask. We need to think effectively. We need to plan properly and make sure all the strategies are in place. Because if this doesn't happen, at the end of the day, we fall back to so many challenges. Situations where we have social workers coming back to ask questions. Why is this child not being picked up? Why is this child, coming in a bit dirty or late because mom had to race off to work? She has to be at work 7 a.m. I heard also Folake speaking about this extensively, about the timing, who is working, at what time, and when are they working, you understand? So that you could manage yourselves. It's strategic planning. Who is working when? Who is picking up the children? What community of friends do you have to depend on and to rely on? Are you interested in the grammar schools? Are you interested in in the UK, we talk about grammar, mainstream schools and even the special schools. Are you interested in an independent school? Do you have enough money to make payments for such, So all this, parents need to sit back, reflect, think, and begin to work out strategies on how best to move. So that once you do make that move, it's a big deal bringing children over. It is a big deal. It takes on so much. You must be ready with the right mindset to be able to, not just take care of your family, but also take care of the needs of your children's education. And I must boast about the fact that, back home, our Nigerian educational system is a lot of improvement, and so they're doing so well also. And at times, some Nigerian parents come here to see that, the standard is not even as high as they expected. And that's why they must ask the right questions.
I'm sorry to cut you short, but what kinds of questions, right kind of questions? Is it a grammar school? Is it da-da-da-da-da?
Yes, so they'll be talking about the types of schools. What types of schools are the children expected to go? They'll be looking at proximity. How far? Most local authorities look at that, of course, at first. But at times, parents are faced with the challenges where some of the schools are already full. So they don't have the placements for the children. And I know I've gone, into the school system and into the local authorities where some parents are faced with so many challenges that kids have to move over to another local authority because there are no spaces for the children to, go into. So they need to be able to ensure that they are placed in the right, locality. And these are difficult things because if you don't even have a postcode or a place, an address, you can't even apply for a school placement. Do you have an opportunity to have invest in an independent school for your children? How long for? How can, effectively can you do this? Some parents have kids with special needs. What kind of school are you looking out for? Are you looking out for these schools that are in a mainstream school or a special needs school? Some children are full of sports. They're full, they're very active. And if you take them to a sports inclined school, these kids will excel and shine forth there. Some are so interested, their focus is on science. And if you take your kids in there, they will excel. So we need to even know our children ourselves as parents. We need to understand who they are and begin to, think, okay, what next? Where exactly should we put them?
Thank you, Ibi.
Can I chime in a bit on that, please, if that's okay?
Yeah, you can.
So, I mean, one of the questions you asked was, so what sort of question should they be asking as far as choosing a school is concerned? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I think the first thing that, like Ruth said, was before you can apply for a school, you have to have where you're going to be, where you live, right? So now that is the key thing as far as choosing a school is concerned. So if you're to pick a school or pick where to live, think about what is that environment like. So if you're living in the, I don't know, I'm trying to think of somewhere like where there's a lot of council houses, council flats and all of those things. Now the school can be rated outstanding by Ofsted, but the kids that come into that school are a lot of those kids are kids from low-income family homes. Now that's not a bad thing, but bear in mind that the values of those kids in their home is going to be very different to the values that a parent of someone that, I don't know, they work in the bank, they're 9-to-5ers, they're educated, they're well, they're, I don't know, like middle class, so of some sort, yes? So those are the kind of kids that your child will be mixing with in the classroom. Now, that could also mean that there will be a lot of behavioral issues in the classroom if a lot of the kids that fit into that school are from low income, I think we call them, is it free school meals, people premium kids. Now, if there's a lot of that in that school, there's going to be a lot of behavioral, please bear in mind, I'm saying this very loosely, but there's that chance that there'll be a lot of there might be a lot of behavioral issues in the school. And that could impact the learning of your child in that classroom. Because if there's a lot of behavioral issues that the school is tackling with already anyway, and we have especially secondary schools where the kids in the classroom are not listening to the teacher, that happens very much. And your child has been put in that set. As much as the child is trying to learn in that environment, it will be hard for them to learn in that space. Okay, so first think about where you're going to find where you're living in. It's a decent area that has a decent school in, that it would impact the behavior of your kids will not be impacted, and the routes. I mean, as one of my family members that relocated recently, I was helping her to check what school that child would go to or whatever. And from the journey that if this child was to walk from their house to the school, they're gonna go past corner shops, different sort of people that literally they will see boys ganging up in different corners in that area.
In the corners, yeah.
In the corners. Now, that is, I'm just talking kind of experience here. Not obviously not my personal kids or friends, where their children are then being groomed into behaviors that did not want their children to be involved with. So there's so much to bear in mind. I know that there's this perception of I've jackpot, this place is better, there's light, there's food, everything's in abundance, you are fine. It is not like that. Yes, and in this part of the world, your antennas has to be even much more raised than you thought it was in Nigeria. So very important, where you find your abode as your house to live, be sure that there are good schools, and there's something we call Ofsted here in the UK. I don't know what it is in Ireland or in Scotland, but we have an Ofsted that rates the school. They go into the school to inspect the school and see how the school is performing. So they might rate it outstanding, school needs improvement, they might already rate the school as good. Now, as good as those ratings are, it's as good as the day was done. Is what happens on the day-to-day basis that really counts, okay? And the school is as good as the head teacher and the teacher in the classroom. So there's a hierarchy of things in the school environment. I'm sure Morayo can say if I'm telling lies here. There's a hierarchy of different things, and even as far as the classroom is concerned, your child thrives best in the classroom based on a teacher that is teaching your child in the classroom. That's why you have to be hot on what exactly you want for your child and how you want it to play. So first things first, where am I going to live? What schools are around there? What kind of families? So before you rent a house, walk around the area. What people that live, what can you see? Because there's a time I fell for this actually, when I checked on a school for my child one time. Outstanding, we fought for her to get into that school. And also, as we were walking in, like we saw parents smoking in, congregating in front of the school, swearing loud and everything. I'm like, oh, problem. Like they say. So, and my child has to go is in the classroom with these children that we were swearing in the classroom. And I had my child come home one day swear. I'm thinking, where did that come from? And I don't swear at home, right? So now you have to reorientating my child. Like, this is in our own family, we don't do this. Now you cannot get it right 100%. However, if you are present, you'll catch it on time. But if you know that you cannot be present, the best thing to be present, full stop. But if as best things best, make sure you are present.
Thank you so much, Grace, for this.
Ibi, can I ask you something Grace just said?
Okay, guys, I have your way. It's your show.
Yeah. So Grace was talking something about county lines, because that is safeguarding, because every parent has to safeguard, their child. It doesn't matter about the locality where you live and all, because now in the country, this is something that is really hot, county lines, where children are being groomed. So you have places like McDonald's, chicken shops, and all that. So you have children after school, instead of going home. Sorry that I'm digressing, because Grace just brought it up. So I just wanted to explain county lines better. So instead of going home, children stay behind, and go to McDonald's, or they go to chicken shops and all, and they're hanging around, with friends. And this is where children are being groomed. And this is what we're saying to parents, to know about the whereabouts of their children, that after school, making sure that you check that your child has gone home. Because why is the child not at home at a certain time? So this is how children are being groomed, because when they're there, they are watching them to see that if they have money to buy McDonald's, if they have money to buy chicken, and then they have conversations with our children, asking them about themselves, and then they buy them chicken today, or and they eat the next day, they are there again, they buy them another chicken and chips, or they buy them McDonald's, having conversations with them and all, finding out about what school they go to, where they live, and things like that. And then here, the child is now cannot go out of that, because the person now tells him that you're owing me money. that because all the chicken and chips I've been buying, all the McDonald's that I've been buying, you know, like that you are owing money, and before, and that you have to pay me back the money. The child doesn't have the money, and then they now say, I know where your mom lives, I know where your what school your sister goes to, and all that you have to do something for me. So this is not necessarily about the migrant, it's about all parents, you know, that we have to be very careful about, you know, the areas our children go to, you know, and who they're hanging out with, because county lines is something that is real now and really hot on the topics of children being groomed or being told to do sexual exploitations, you know, for money and all that. So we have to be very, very careful the schools that our children go to, who they're hanging around with, especially, you know, as Grace was saying, you know, you're just coming into the country, so you don't really know about the area and, you know, places like that. So parents really have to be very vigilant, checking on their children, who they are hanging out with, places that they are going to, you know, things like that, because it is very important, and county lines is real. It is real.
Thank you very much, Morayo, for that. And I think that you know, a lot of times when parents are leaving the country, and Grace buttressed that point, you're like, last, you know, that you would say that the place where you're coming from, I mean, the place where you're going is a lot better than where you're coming from. But there's an underbelly of things that are happening in the country where you're going to that you're not aware that is happening until you go there. So I think that it's important that as you decide to relocate to another country, have an idea of where you want to stay. Thank God for Google. Thank God for information, and on there's information, you know, online information. Check the statistics of the area. Check the crime rate. Check even just, you know, what the area is known for and stuff like that, because it's very important. A lot of times we're like, oh, I want to live anywhere but Nigeria, anywhere but my home country. But I tell you, it's not always like that. And I want to even just say something about what Grace said. You know, one time when my son was in primary school, there was a school that he got to, there's a secondary school that he got. Now he went to a beautiful primary school, and there was a secondary school that he got. So I went to do the inspection of the school. The gym was fantastic. The classrooms were fantastic. The lab was fantastic. The labs were fantastic. They had very good meal provision. It was lovely. In fact, the gym just blew my mind away. They had the security system where, you know, way back in 2011, you know, the children have to clock in and clock out. So I went back to the principal of my son's primary school and said, oh, Mr. Da, my son got this lovely school. I really like the school. The teachers are kind. I saw the principal. He said, Ibi, no, your son can't go there. I said, why? I mean, it's a very good, he said he can't go there. And the same thing that Grace said, he said the location of the school. Who are the kinds of children your son will interact with? Your child has gone to this lovely primary school. It will be a waste on him to go to this school. So the principal now had to help me to get another secondary school that was befitting for my son. So yes, Grace, what you're saying is a fact. And yes, parents, you have to make sure that you shine your eye very well before you pick a school for your children. The next thing I want to talk about is discipline. Discipline. The idea that we have of children that live overseas is that once the children come here, their behavior changes, because now when they come abroad, the idea is that the children are empowered. You can't correct them, you can't spank them. And children kind of like have this in their minds. I don't know what happens, but then they speak to the parents rudely. Sometimes we lose our children in the process. So you all have been here. What is the right way to discipline your children abroad?
I think I'll start
Start.
because I'll start from the early childhood, and then primary and secondary school can, yeah. So there's something in early childhood that we call positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. So for instance, in relation to positive reinforcement, like if your child is doing something that is good, you kind of like encourage them, praise them. And early childhood is not something that, this is one thing I say, early childhood is not about, like giving a prize. Even if you're giving a prize is something small like sticker, high five, you're giving a hug. So in relation to discipline, I'm going to say that it depends on the age of the children that we're talking about. So I think taking away privileges is working, taking away privileges from the child. Let's say if you have like a child in primary school or secondary school, like if they've done something wrong, I think you can take away something that they like so that they can learn from their mistakes. Like I said, the children are missing out because they thought, oh, I'm abroad, my parent can't discipline me. If they discipline me or they want to discipline me, I know who to call. Even the school, the system is not saying that we can't discipline our children. We can, but there are ways that we can go about it. So I just want to talk about taking away privileges. So if you have any parent here that you're looking for, how can you discipline your child or your children? I think when you take away the privileges, it's going to work. And not just even taking away the privileges. Like for instance, if they've done something wrong, like if they have access to a phone, you can just say to them, well, for today, you're not going to have access to your phone because of so, because of what you did. It really worked. I'm telling you, it does work, especially if it's something that they like. Like you're not going out to your friend today. I'm not taking you to the park because of what you did, because of how you spoke to your teacher. The child is going to learn that the reason why you're taking away the privilege from them is because of what they have done. And it actually works. So in early childhood, it says that, they would not want to do that behavior again because they know that definitely they love their phone. They love to play, they love to go to the park. And if you're saying that they can't go to the park because of what they've done, and I think it's really important that sometimes as parents, we're kind of like laid back in relation to correcting our children. The system is not saying we should not correct them. Let's not mix things up. Don't say, well, I'm not going to correct them because of the system. If I correct my children, they are going to come for them. It just depends on the approaches that you're going to use. So if you're a parent, you're here in abroad or you're planning to come abroad, don't think that you can. The system actually encourages us to discipline your children. You can discipline them. But I think taking away the privileges and let them know why you're taking away the privileges from them, it does work. I think that's what I'm going to talk about for early childhood.
Can we spank them?
Yes, children, in the UK, children can be smacked, but it is encouraged that parents shouldn't smack children. But children can be smacked with an open palm. You are allowed to smack with an open palm on the bottom. You're not meant to touch the child's face, any visible part, you're not meant to, but you can smack on the bottom. And just what Florence has said, we discourage spanking because behavior is about correcting the child, and you spanking the child, you're not correcting that behavior. You're just instilling punishment to that child. So behavior is all about correcting the child and letting the child know what the child has done wrong, that behavior is not accepted. Not that the child is a bad child, it is the behavior that is not accepted. So what we encourage parents to do is effective communication. Just having that effective communication with your child, engaging in an open and honest communication with your child, talking about that behavior that the child has instilled, that it is wrong, and this is the reason why it is wrong, and then giving clear boundaries. There has to be clear boundaries in the home. You have to have clear boundaries. There has to be rules and boundaries, ensuring that the child understands the consequences of their actions. So there has to be clear boundaries, and it has to be consistent, because sometimes parents are not consistent. When they give boundaries, when the child has done something wrong, you give the child a consequence, and when the child does something wrong again, you do not give the child a consequence. So the child is confused. So that is where we get all those bad behaviors. There has to be consistency, in the clear boundaries or in the consequences you're giving your child. There has to be, and again, you should not only focus, just what Florence said, on only the negatives, or, focus on the positives, because the child just doesn't want the parent, just talking about the negatives all the time. Because if you're praising your child for the positives and all, the child will not want to do something bad, because the child sees that when they do something good, you are encouraging them, you are praising them, you are happy with them and all. So that makes the child not want to do something that will upset the parent. But if the parent is always on the negatives all the time, and we have parents like that, they are always on the negative, they never see the good in that child. So the child gets fed up and feels that, what's the point? When I'm good, I don't get any praises, then I might as well, continue the same way I am behaving. So parents also have to check, themselves and see how that there must be effective communication. There has to be clear boundaries, like that, and there has to be consistency in whatever consequence you're giving your child. But it is advised that spanking does not change that behavior. It's best communications, giving consequences, as Florence said, giving a child timeout or taking something that the child really likes. Most children like watching telly, going on their iPads and all their phones. You take that off the child and explain to the child that why I have taken the phone off you is because you did this, and this, and that is why it will be taken from you for an hour or two. And then after that, give it back to the child. So the child sees that you are consistent also. And then the child knows that, oh, when I did this, it was taken for an hour or two. I now know that I must not, exhibit this same bad behavior. So that's what we advise parents.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you
Can
so
I
much.
quickly just chip in one thing? I just want to say one thing.
Okay.
And sometimes the children, they will push your buttons. So let's say if they come for something, if you give in, they would always want to come for that thing because they know you will give in. So you have to be consistent, like what Morayo said. Let your no be your no and your yes be your yes. Don't just say no today and then tomorrow, oh, because I'm tired, I have a lot of work to do. I came back from work. Oh, fine, you can have it. And the child has done something wrong. You're not correcting the child. The child is going to repeat because they know, well, I've done it now. My mother is not saying anything. My father is not saying anything. Let me test it the next time again. It's just going to work. So they love the consistency. You're saying no, and it's also important. That's why I said, like, if it's in a two-parent home, both party has to agree. I'm telling you, it's not mommy saying one thing, daddy is saying one thing. Guys, it's not going to work. If mommy is saying one thing, daddy is going to say one thing. Let's say if the child says that the mommy is the soft one, they would always come to mommy because they know they can always get the things from mommy, and they know the daddy is the street one. They won't go to the daddy. So both parties has to sit down. Well, we're taking the phone away. Not if the mother say they want to take the phone. The father is saying, oh, you can have it now. Leave my daughter now to have the phone. So I think it's important in a home that is two parents involved. They have to be consistent. Even in a home that is only the mom or the dad, you have to be stricter. And sometimes let's not be guilty, okay? Sometimes maybe when we're disciplining our children, let's not feel guilty that, I think I'm too strict, no, you're training them to be the best. And it's actually going to work out. They're like, oh, my child has said the word I was not supposed to say, and I'm taking their phone. I shouldn't have done it that way. I shouldn't have behaved that way. You're doing the right thing because you want the best for the child.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that I chip that in.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I would also like to add, so much, we've said so much. Also, about, one thing about modeling good behavior. Yeah. It's so important that we whatever we are preaching, we also are acting accordingly. Yeah. We can't go out as parents and say one thing, we're going out, we're abusing, we're talking to people any way we want to. And then we go back to our children and say, you don't do this, don't do that. We've got to model this good behavior. Our children have to see us. They have to know, that this is who we are, especially when we're talking about things like simple things as integrity. You understand? If you tell your child, if you're going to do this, you will get this. Keep to your promises. Keep to your word, and make sure you stick to it because they're watching, what you're doing and what you're saying. Integrity is important. I can't tell them that I'm going to take you to the cinema this evening if after we finished all this, work today, and then at the end of the day, you feel so tired and you're you've got to do it because you've said it. Integrity is key. They've got to see you speaking well to others. They've got to see you and hear you speaking well to your friends and to others, and not going back even to your partners and to your husbands at home, But when they see you abusing and hitting back on him, you find those small children going back, hitting back on others. So we've got to be careful what we say. We've got to be careful in those discussion rooms, even while speaking to our fellow friends, because these children are listening. They're watching, they're eavesdropping every corner. They're all around us. So we've got to be careful, what we say and what we do. So it's not just about what we're preaching. We can't continue to, children need to see, and feel and know that this is the right thing to do, and they will begin to walk alongside. And I love the fact that both the last two speakers spoke about giving reasons why. Giving reasons why is so important. Why are you not meant to have sausages at this time of the night? Why are you meant to be sleeping, this time? Why do we need to give our children reasons? The more they have reasons, the more they begin to understand. There's open communication, effective communication. I give and you give, and they're speaking. And the more we communicate with them openly, the more they speak to us. I want my children to speak to me as much as possible. And one thing I wanted to hone back on was on the fact that, sometimes, as we're speaking to parents out there in the world, sometimes some of us parents are faced with challenges that will think back, oh, I've made a very bad mistake. My child is already in this school, or my child is already there. Don't give up hope, because this training that happens at home is crucial. It's so important. And we can see that some kids who are trained up properly and effectively at home will go out and shine their light so bright. So it's this training at home is also very important. I have personal experience with this. I had no idea where I was sending my first son to. I couldn't even imagine with the community and all that, but he came out being the head boy, and he came out being the light of that school. And so it's not giving up. Parents, so don't get so scared and afraid of, I can't do this. No, don't give yourself strict rules. Remember, training up the child at home is key and crucial.
Fantastic. Grace, I'm going to come to you, but I just want to make a brief announcement.
Right.
So if you have any questions to ask, feel free to raise up your hands, and I will call you to ask your questions, because this is an interactive session. And if you have any friends that you think would benefit from this conversation, please feel free to share the link, copy the link and share the link so that they can benefit from this conversation as well. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ibi if you haven't subscribed yet. And you can also follow me on my Facebook page, Ibi LinkedIn, Ibi Facebook profile, Ibi and Instagram, Ibi Grace,
right.
I wanted to ask you specifically about behavior.
Right.
Because a child's behavior communicates something.
Yeah.
And when we were growing up in our culture, our mothers would give you a destiny resetting slap, and your destiny will be reset. One time I was having a conversation with my elder brother, and my elder brother and I agreed. Our dad was very strict, and my elder brother and I agreed that those occasional destiny helping slaps reset our destinies and our brains. So we were growing up in an era when the slap used to help, but these days we're finding out that the thing doesn't really help as much as it used to.
Yeah.
And some children would actually take that thing from you. And if you're like me, you don't have power, they can, So let's talk about the different kind of naughty behaviors and what the remedies are. Just quickly, let's run through them.
Okay, so I think you're right, like you rightly said, behavior is a form of communication. And either a positive behavior or a negative behavior, your child is trying to tell you something. Now, whichever behavior you reinforce by either paying attention to, so that attention might not necessarily talking, while if you're shouting, so if your child walks out of the room and slams the door, and you raise your voice and you're shouting, or as you're walking through the door, the first thing you say to the children in the house is, "Why is your bag here? Hold this one. People will not kill me." Literally, you're literally saying, you're always highlighting the bad things. They will always do the bad things. Why? Because they are getting your attention. And you are responding to it. That's the only way they know that if I do something, Mama will speak to us. Now, they might not necessarily like being yelled at, but it now becomes like a vicious cycle where negative behavior is getting a negative response. And because that's the only way you communicate to each other, it goes round and right round in that cycle. However, if you always focus on the positive, so for example, if you have a toddler and the toddler has put their shoe away in the box, well done, child X. Instead of saying, "Oh, you're a good boy," no, well done, child X, for putting your shoe in the shoe box. Let's try that again next time. Yeah. Or if it's a teenager, they help you to wash the dishes in the house. "Oh, wow. I came down this morning, I realized all the dishes were being washed. Thank you, my darling, for being very helpful in the household, because you helping Mommy also helps me to be able to spend time with you a bit more." However, who are these? Where are these children? You haven't washed dishes. I will go to work. Come back. You didn't, and you keep going on and on. That is what you continue to get, and your shouting will eventually fall on deaf ears, and you'll never get what you're trying to achieve with your kids. Now, discipline. Another thing I was going to say was how discipline has their age-appropriate discipline. So for a 0 to 3-year-old, a smack on the bottom, perhaps pushing to 5, a smack on the bottom with a bare palm might do the trick to you, like a quick ginger. Because obviously, if you've got a hub, or you'll do something, do something in the house, or child is about a trip, or do something that you know is going to be what's it called, a form of danger to the child, and you scream, at that point the child will jolt and perhaps redirect ever so quickly. But if you're talking to a 10-year-old, 11, 12, or a child hitting puberty, and you're forever shouting, trying to slap the child, you will get 0 from them. So knowing what discipline at what times is appropriate is beneficial. I mean, even recently I heard someone was saying to me how at age 25, her mother, this is a Nigerian parent, she was still living in Nigeria at the time, at age 25, this was in the 2000s, this I'm talking about here, her mom laid her down and was still flogging her. I'm like, who does that at age 25? Please, that mentality cannot come to the UK. God forbid person gets imprisoned. You can't be doing that. There's age-appropriate discipline as to what to say and how to say it, not because of you are afraid of being taken away or a kid taken away from you, because you want to connect with your children. More so to connect with your child than any local authority, whatever they might do to you, because otherwise you will lose your children. God forbid. That's not the plan, and that's why we're having these conversations here today. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I think if best if you have a question about a behavior that is bugging you at home, I can help you to unpack that and see what strategy can help you to navigate that behavior. Because I'm not quite sure what would be the best, but I think I've started a couple here and there, and I hope that helps.
Fantastic.
Can I add to that quickly?
Okay, do that.
I'm just looking at from the school point, because we do find out that some children, when you speak to the parents, they will say, my child behaves well at school, but my child doesn't behave at home.
That's it, yeah.
And just what Grace is saying, it's communication, the way you communicate with your child, because more African parents are used to screaming, shouting at the child. But the child comes to school and then the teacher is speaking and listening to the child. Yeah. So the child is shocked that they can have a conversation.
Hey,
that's right.
Screaming and shouting at them. And the child behaves in school, but the parent now comes to the teacher and says, my child doesn't behave like this at home. Oh, it's so difficult. It's so this, it's so that. It's your way of communication, how you communicate with your child. So we do advise parents, sometimes, they ask, what should we do? We always say, what we're doing in school, try and implement that at home also. Yeah. Listen to your child, give consequences, let them know that it's the behavior, it's not them, it's the behavior you do not like, give positive reinforcement, even if it's stickers. Children love it. Children in primary school, they love it. Have a sticker chat in the child's room. If you get up to 5 stickers, then you get or rewards, you get something. So this is being done in school and this is being done at home, and is working together. And then you see, it's very productive, and then you tend to see that your child's behavior is changing. So that's why we do advise parents, that let us work together, work with the school, together, so that it's the same voice. What the child is hearing at home is what the child is hearing in school, and that helps with the behavior of the child.
And let us not also forget that when we talk about losing the child, especially in the UK system, losing the child could also happen anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what it means to lose a child? Losing a child is that this child is no longer listening or working with you, or is no longer, under your jurisdiction, and is ready to go out to do anything he or she wants to do. He's ready to go out smoking, drinking. You're losing your child. You can't even find your child. So we shouldn't just put it in the UK context about the social workers coming in to take these children. What about when these children actually get lost in the world and they feel that the bad that they do is the best thing that happens to them?
Yeah.
And they're involved in all kinds of things, that we can't even imagine. And so that word lose is deep, and parents should all be thinking about it. Let's get back to what, we are all saying today. That connection is key. We need to connect with these children. We need to relate with them. We need to understand them. They need to understand us, so that we can also get back to, I love this thing about age appropriate, responses to, the behavior. You understand? Because how dare I beat an 18-year-old boy? You start hitting him, you just stare back at you, and you start provoking them, and next thing they hit you back. So we have to be careful. We have to be knowledgeable. You're on mute.
Can I chip in? Can I chip in? Can I come in here?
Please do.
Okay. I just wanted to talk more about the behavior. Like, we also need to understand that in terms of the behavior, maybe sometimes the children are trying to pass a message to us. And maybe when we're not getting it, the only way they can do is just to lash out. And just like what Ruth said, if you're dealing with a teenager, like you have a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, the way you're going to deal with a 5-year-old child is not the same way you're going to deal with a 16 or 17. But most of the time, people don't look at it that way. Yes, my child, whether you're 5 or you're 6, you're 7, it's the same measure. So we need to understand the age of the children we're talking about here. The way you're going to deal with a toddler is going to be different from the way you're going to deal with a teenager. And I think it also comes back in terms of the relationship we build with the children, and it's over time. Everything starts from early childhood. Research has proven that, parents being part of their children's education should start from the early years, getting to know the children, getting to know their personality. So for instance, if you have a child that in terms of their behavior, they get annoyed easily, you're not going to provoke them as a parent. You will know where to draw the boundaries. Maybe if the conversation is leading to something else, you say, I think it's high time we all take a break now. Let's come back. Maybe in an hour or 2 hours time, everybody will be calmed down. We can talk about it. Now, let's talk about if you're dealing with teenagers. Teenagers at that age, they are trying to be independent. They feel that they know it all. At that stage, they feel like, well, I'm in charge of my life. You can't tell me what to do. And it's a phase, it's a hormone. So it's something going on in their system. Sometimes these children don't even understand. They're trying to fit into the system. This is where sometimes peer pressure comes in. If you're not listening to them, if you're not, talking to them, getting to know the phase that they are passing through, they go out to their friends out there. They know, well, I have my friends that I can go to. They can always listen to me. And then when they tell them things, they believe, well, I'm trying to. And sometimes you hear the children say things such as, nobody understands me. I'm trying to communicate. You know, maybe my parents don't understand me. I think my friend understand where I'm coming from. So I think it's building the relationship, and it happens over time. If you don't have a relationship with your child from early child, is it when they are teenagers or when they are adults you want to build that relationship? Let's be sincere with ourselves. It's going to be a little bit difficult. So we need to start from the root. So if we've not been building relationship with the children, it's high time, getting to find out things about them. It could be something like, okay, let's go for a walk. If maybe you've not been taking the children out for a walk, you start it once, it's going to look strange to them. Let's be sincere with ourselves. It's going to say, oh, you want to take me for a walk, something you've not been doing before. Why do you want to do it now? But with time, even if you don't have time, like what Grace said, maybe if you're busy working, like, in the evening, maybe when they come to your room or you even go over to them, a 5-minute chat, 10-minute chat goes a long way. And because you have that relationship, they will just say some things to you that maybe they will wonder, why did I even tell my mom this? Why did I tell my dad this? But because they have that relationship with you, it just comes naturally to them. But if you don't build the relationship, it might be a little bit difficult for them to communicate with you. And I think as parents as well, we have to loosen up. We just have to loosen up when we're with our children. We have to just loosen up, so that they can be free to us. When they see us as I'm not saying we should not be street. It's important that we're street. But, there are sometimes, it's not every time that we'll just carry our face up. Permit me to use that word. They say, Margaret Thatcher mom is coming. That they won't even feel comfortable to talk to you. I hope, that makes sense.
Thank you very much. First, I want to read a comment out on LinkedIn. And someone says here, it's illegal to spank a child in Scotland, even on the backside. So that's just a comment that we're aware of. Folake has a question. Folake, please, can you you raised your hands. Would you like to answer your questions? Feel free to ask your questions now.
Yeah, thank you. Please, Ruth says something about modeling behavior. Like now in my house, I've got age 9 and age 7, which they like whenever they are eating, they want to go on their tablet. And I've told them, you can't watch your tablet while eating. Eating is eating time. But they told me, oh, but mom, when you are eating, you always watch your phone as well. But having said that, that's the only time I've got to just catch up with the gist and everything. Any other thing, I'm busy. How will I deal with that? That's the first question. Then number 2, I've got issues between her and the dad, because most of the times I'm the one with them. The dad is just, men, just few hours with them, pamper them and do that. And they've tagged me as the street one. Mommy, you are street. Mommy, you're always shouting. You're always doing that, which I'm calming down now. I don't shout anymore. But now my daughter, Florence, said something about taking what they like away from them. My daughter loves staying on her tablet. But now if I say, okay, fine, you're not having your tablet for today, you say, Mommy, it doesn't matter to me anymore. You can have it. But the only thing I discover we get to my daughter is when we have a birthday party and you say she's not going. And I've done that once and it's worked. But I don't usually have parties to go, and I cannot be looking for parties to be going in order to take the reward off her. So I'm struggling with that. I don't know how to deal with it. That's where I am now, please.
Sorry, is this Folake my friend?
Grace, is Folake your friend, though?
Sorry.
All right, let me answer the one that she referred to me. Then I think Florence will answer the second bit. Okay. Folake, what I want you to understand is that modeling good behavior is very important. It's so key. You can't preach to a child and expect the child. You see, there's some special moments that we have as parents, and you must take advantage of them. That's the eating time when you're eating with your children, the cooking time when they're in the kitchen, the bathroom time, the morning time, the prayer time. You cannot you can't erase those moments ever. So they're precious moments that must be used. Do you know what is more important than having a relationship with your child at that point in time, talking with them, interacting with them, getting information with them? There's nothing more important than having those moments with your children. So build those communication, those times, leave them open. Have those special moments where you can chat with them, talk with them. And they need to see you. You can't be telling a child put your phone off when your phone is on. You're there on your phone, 24/7, and you're like, I want all of you to put off your phones now while you're there. It won't work. You need to understand that these children learn from us. And we've got to model this behavior. They need to see us do it. They need to see that you are sacrificing this phone, you're laying it aside and saying, it's now our time. And they will respect that you've done that. And they will begin to follow you follow suit. But when you're doing one thing and they're doing another thing, I don't think it will work. So please model. Integrity is important. Honesty is important. They need to see these values within you. And then they begin to learn. It's not what they learn outside, but what they learn from the home, what they see you do, how you interact, how you meet up with them, how you talk with them. These are precious moments that no one can buy. And very soon they'll be too old for you to have this lunchtime with them. Very soon they'll be in uni and they won't even have time to. And then you begin to think, well, what happened to those times? These times are important. Value them. I can tell you out of experience, I have children. My first son is 25. My second son is 18 or 20 now. I don't have such times now because they're out working. They're doing all sorts of things. I can remember the times we had and we shared. This is where we begin to build relationships. This is when they begin to learn from us. This is when they begin to grow. They begin to understand us, and we build that connection between ourselves. So please treasure these moments. I can't stress this enough.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for that. And somehow I kind of like understand the plight of Falake, because even the plight of the migrant parent, because you're coming into a country, some people sell everything that they have, they borrowed money. So when they come here, they have the perception that when they come here, this is a land flowing with milk and honey. My country of origin is bad. So the place I'm coming would not be as bad as where I'm coming from. So they have very high expectations. But getting here, then you find out that, wow, it's not easy. You have to look for accommodation, and then you have to work to pay for to pay your debts. If you have to pay debts, you have to pay for accommodation and all of that. So the reality then becomes daunting. It's so daunting that they are like trying to swim. So they don't really have the energy and the vitality of doing all the things that you have said. But Ibi, you said something that is so important, and which every one of us have said, is that we have to sacrifice. And in sacrificing, you have to place your priorities. My children are important. So just know what you want to sacrifice. Just bear it in mind. But sometimes, even in sacrificing, the children have to eat. You have to pay your bills. Some people have parents and siblings back home that they have to cater for. So all round in every way, it's not always easy. And sometimes if you're a migrant, depending on the country, you may not have social services, or you may not have support from the system. So again, all of those are hard. But I feel that, well, this is just me speaking, that ask questions. I think here in the West, ask questions. If you ask questions, you will get help. If you need support, if your child's school has parent support, avail yourself of those support systems. There are sometimes, even here, you could walk up to this teacher and say, listen, these books are expensive. Do you have secondhand book options? Can I rent books? Some schools would give your child uniforms, fairly used uniforms, secondhand uniforms, But what I'm just saying is that if you ask, you would get the support that you need. So ask. Ibi, Morayo.
Okay. Can I just answer the second question that Falake asked? Second question. Before the second question, I just want to, say a little thing about what Ruth said in relation to, the use of, a gadget phone and all that. I think it's important. One thing that I think parents should also cultivate the habit of is, when the children are using their gadget, like you should kind of like give them time, let that be a time. Like in my home, this is what, like my children know that they can only use the mobile phone for a set period of time. And it's really working. And that's why you need to have the rules. I'm not teaching you what to do in your home, but everybody, for every home, there must be a rule. Like maybe all phones has to be turned off by 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And even if you as the parent want to go back to use your phone, but let the children see that everybody has put their phone away 10 o'clock. So you're modeling what, the behavior that, you want to see the children do. You're not saying to them, well, don't use your phone. And then they are seeing you. And then you have the ones that say, Mommy, you're telling them not to use our phone, but look at you're using your phone. So I think in relation to, the children using their phones, iPad, even watching TV, there should be a set time. Okay, you can only watch TV for 2 hours during the week. I know in some home there is only weekend that the children are allowed, to watch TV, to play games and all that. So you have to, decide. So now, for like back to your question about your child that, okay, if you take away the phone, it's not working. I think for her, you've gotten to a state whereby you've been taking the phone away from her and she's kind of like used to it. Well, I know that's what she's going to do. She's going to, and look at, you said she just said it to you or she said it to you that I know, I don't care, you're going to take my phone. So this is something we always say in early childhood, that you need to find out it's not just one thing that your child likes. You need to have the options, whether it's two or three things that you know that your child like. So if one is not working again, you switch to the second one. So don't wait until when you've exhausted the first option before you think of the second option. So Falaka, you have to go back. Like I said, the only thing that works out is birthday party. And it's not all the time that people are doing birthday party. There must be another thing that he or she likes that you've not found out. So I'm giving you an homework, okay? You can reach out to me later. So I'm giving you an homework to do your findings, observe your child and find out what else your child likes. It might be simple thing as listening to their conversation, maybe with our siblings. They can be talking, they say, oh, I actually like this thing. I actually like watching TV. There's a particular show that I like to watch. Then now you find out, okay, this is what she likes. And then anytime a behavior occurs, then you're just going to say, well, yeah. And not just taking away the privileges. I think it's important to let the child know why. You're not watching the TV because of what? Because you spoke to me rudely. We're not condoling this in the home. And as parents, we need to stand our feet, our ground. There must be sometimes that it might be shaky. I'm telling you. For like Ruth now, like you have, like grown up children. It might be some state that it might be tough, that it will be difficult. You are like, oh, this thing I'm going to do is not going to be easy, but you just have to be able to, take your stand, to be able to decide that this is where you stand. Falake, I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. There's a comment here on LinkedIn. The same guy who talked about it's illegal to spank in Scotland. He said, while we are quite good at asking our kids how their day went, we need to develop the habit of asking what didn't go well. Kids don't like this question, but it registers that you are there for them to listen whenever they have a problem to share. Now, if there's anyone who wants to get in touch with any one of you, how would they get in touch with you? I know that God, brain fog. I have brain fog, guys, bear with me. Florence has a YouTube channel, yeah? And you speak a lot on early childhood, yes? Florence? So how would anyone get in touch with you, my guests? Ibi, Florence, Morayo.
I think there's someone raised her hand, Christiana.
Okay.
I think we've lost Florence as well.
Okay, Christiana, raise your hands. Any questions, Christiana? We have to go in a few minutes. I've overshot my 10 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Christina.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for your input. I was just there listening. I have grown kids, so adults, not adults, but teens. They're like 16, 15, and they're boys. I think they're at that stage where they're trying to discover themselves, and I don't know how to get in. I feel like maybe when I pry too much, like the first one would tell me, "Oh, mom, you won't get it." and his dad tries, but I feel maybe because I am more, how will I put it, emotional, I tend to see things, maybe I even see beyond maybe what their father will see. But I guess that if something is going wrong, the mother is the first person to pick it up.
She feels it.
Yes. So I noticed that my first son went into religion like full-fledged. And I don't know how to balance that with being a good religious Jesus boy. And also important, like I don't want to provoke. At the same time, I want to be like in the affairs, if that makes sense. I had I'm asking this question now because somebody just said there that she has a 25-year-old, so maybe she would have gone through this stage. So I don't know, would you have any input for me there with my teens? Because, oh dear Lord, I thought it was hard when they were small, but now it's something.
Yes, I do have, Christian, I have a 25-year-old, and I have both boys too. Funny enough, but one thing I know, the personality of boys are completely different from girls. I have nieces too, so I understand that. And you see that most boys, based on their personality, tend to be withdrawn. They want to be by themselves. They want to know. But I think the best thing I have learned through the years is just being their friends, and relating with them on that level. From time to time, I sit with them, I talk with them, I chat with them. Opening up can be a big deal, but it's all about, embracing those special moments with them and getting to understand them better and getting to listen to them and getting to, to interact with them and learn from them also. Because at times when we just think, we know it all, we can also have opportunities where they're also teaching us. And we could say, oh yes, wow, do you know that thing you thought it was so good? They begin to feel, wow, mom really listened to me and she really did this or she did that. So having those moments where you learn to trust them for who they are. And at some point in time, parents, we need to learn to release them. We need to understand that at some point in time, these children need to grow. They need to experience life for themselves. They need to, but while we're still engaging, while we're still interacting, while we're still chatting, we still need to ensure that we know that they will make mistakes. There's no perfect human being. So they will go out, they will make mistakes. They could go out and do one thing or another, but they will come running back if you have that relationship with them. And so that relationship is key. The interaction, the connection, the building, them having that opportunities even to come talk about their girlfriends. Align and not shutting them down when they tell you things. They may tell you some things that you feel this is a very stupid thing for them to do. But don't ever see anything they do as stupid. Use it as an opportunity to teach. Open your door, open your home, know their friends, love their friends. I know my son's friends, we have opportunities where we have, dinner together, we have fun, and during those times they want to talk. They want to talk, they want to chat. And then we talk and we chat and we say things. Oh, mom, we allow my friends come in. Yes, because I want to know them. I want to interact with them. Gone are the days when we shut our doors and we say, don't you dare talk to me about anyone. We've got to know them. And the only way we can know them is by getting into their world too. I don't know if that answers your question.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Somebody, thank you very much, Ruth. Somebody's saying here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Somebody is here and someone is saying here, hi, I'm Peter, a child safeguarding social worker in London. I'm happy to help answer questions if any parent happens to have to come to the attention of services. Perfect. So yeah.
You're muted, sis. We can't hear you.
Yeah. So does anyone know Pete? Pete has is a social worker and he says he's happy to help answer questions. It's on the question thread, it's on the comment thread. Okay, so if you want to get in contact with Ruth, is Ruth D. Whyte. Her email address is it's info@sohecares.co.uk. Ruth, do you still have your podcast? Do you still do your podcast?
No, not recently.
Not recently. And they can also follow you on Instagram.
Yes.
Ruth D. Whyte.
Ruth D. Whyte, yes.
Perfect. And Morayo, yours is Momache, MORMICHE 2000 at yahoo.co.uk. And Ruth, Grace is Train Up a Child on Instagram. And I'm having brain fog.
No, you're not.
I'm not? Okay.
No, you're not, because Foleka hasn't put up hers yet.
Okay. And Florence, I think Florence has a page on Facebook. She's not here. I don't know what's happening. She has a page on Facebook.
She's back. She's back.
I'm back.
Florence, what's the page on Facebook?
My laptop's just shut down. So
okay, so back. What's your how can my viewers get in touch with you?
Okay, I'm going to leave my email here. So it's lesmatters34@gmail.com. So, and I'm also, for those of you here that you have parent of young children, I also have a YouTube channel called LES Matters TV. So where I share tips in relation to everything early childhood education. And I also have a Facebook page as well called LES Matters TV. So I look at everything early childhood related. So that's my email address, lesmatters34@gmail.com. So if there's any way that I can help, so if you have a parent or if you're a parent of young children, so anything from birth till the age of 8, in any way that you feel that I can be able to assist you, because no man is, and like the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. So I believe we are all here to, to help ourselves and to support ourselves. And that's the joy, when you see, migrant, their children are doing well, it's a win for all of us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And you can join me next time for another exciting episode of Ibi Speaks. We're continuing the Japa series, and my next episode, I'm going to post it up. It's going to be, it's going to be on the 12th, tentatively the 12th of August, and we're going to talk about jobs. You don't want to miss it. I have other episodes of Ibi Speaks. If you, just in case this is your first time of seeing this episode, I have the Japa series episode. It's episode 74, and we talked about first things first, how to the things you must know before you embark on the journey. I have all the other conversations, AI, intellectual property, and stuff like that. I have very important conversations. I wanted to check it out. And please, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's Ibinabo Enebi. You can follow me on my social media handles, Ibinabo Enebi, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook profile and page. Thank you very much. And guys and ladies, I'm going to call you. And thanks, everybody. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. So I'm going to call you guys. Okay, thank you. Oh, my big sister is here. Hello, Auntie. How are you? She says very informative. And Ashade says, thanks for the informative sessions. Yes, I have very informative sessions. I have very informative programs. Yeah, so join me. Thanks, Christina. Bye. Thanks, everybody. Bye.